Welcome everyone! Today I'm going to speedrun a victory over France as Belgium in Hearts of Iron 4 and intend to pridefully ride into Paris on bicycles. I played this run on the pre-release version of the new DLC called Götterdämmerung, which centers around Germany and wonder weapons, but also finally adds a unique focus tree to Belgium, including new formable nations like Burgundy. Amongst other things, I'll show you how to rush through a lot of them and gain heaps of additional core territory at the same time. As usual, I'm playing on Ironman mode and without any mods. Anyway, enjoy! Belgium doesn't start out with much, so our options in the beginning are very limited. We plan to go to war as quickly as possible, and science respectively isn't going to be important, nor is construction. Production matters a bit more. Although our manpower pool is pretty small at the moment, we're going to end up with a surprising amount of divisions rather soon, given that we can supply them. The main protagonist of this speedrun is Belgium's new focus tree. We start the journey on the political path and pick perpetual neutrality as our first focus. The new tree consists of multiple branches, including a shared focus tree with our African subject nation, the Congo. You can build quite the powerhouse through the economic and shared branches, but an early war requires a swift change in ideology. At the beginning of the game, Belgium is predominantly democratic. Any changes to the political system have to go through the focus royal intervention. But getting there isn't as easy as it might appear. Not only do you need to do all previous focuses from both branches, you also have to have the corruption scandal national spirit that you only get after investigate bribery charges completes. And it doesn't end there, because the corruption scandal isn't applied right away, but rather through odds that increase over time, a concept called mean time to happen. In this case, mean time to happen, or MTTH, is set to 140 days, meaning there's a 50% chance that the event fires within that time span. If the event does not trigger within 140 days, the odds for it to happen increase each day after that. In order to maximize our chances, we take Government Resigns as our second focus, which auto-completes the focus Government of National Unity when selecting the respective option during the Government Resigns event. This leaves us with a buffer of 2 focuses, which take 70 days each, so 140 in total. The only thing we're looking for while these 2 focuses are completing is the event to get the corruption scandal national spirit. Luckily, we get it quite early this time, but I have to admit that it wasn't on my first attempt. Shortly after, we hire our first advisor. We'll hire 2 in total, both are located at the bottom of the list. The fascist demagogue is our first pick, since some focuses later down the line require a certain percentage of party popularity in order to proceed. Let's use the opportunity to talk about the goals and overall strategy of the speedrun. The fastest way towards an early war goal requires us to opt for a more expansionist ideology. Once we flip, we can manually justify war goals on other nations, and the respective branch in the focus tree comes with all kinds of free war goals too. One of the things that we want to achieve today is rushing down France. We're actually going to do that twice. Once through a manual war goal and immediate declaration of war, and another time with war goals from just the focus tree. Both strategies result in a victory over France, but especially the latter one is, well, special. We now have reached the royal intervention focus. After it has finished, we are prompted with a choice to pick our nation's future leader. We'll pick de Grelle, which opens up the VNV branch of the focus tree, which is, without a doubt, the fastest way to war. Just a few focuses in and you'll unlock war goals on Luxembourg and the Netherlands, as well as France shortly after. We already get the ability to justify war goals manually once we elect Léon de Grelle as Belgium's new leader, but because we still have the neutrality modifier, it would take over a year to finish. Right after, we briefly take a detour into recruiting new units. You see, while Belgium itself has very little manpower to work with, at least without changing draft laws, our subject, the Congo, has roughly 90,000 soldiers that we can use instead of our own. But for that to work, we need one of their templates, and the infantry template of theirs isn't quite ready. The next time we check, the Congo will have expanded the template, but for now it's back to rushing through focuses. Exactly 1 year ago, we committed to a course of neutrality, and now we're already abandoning it. And we don't just do it so we can start justifying war goals, although that is very much our intention. It's a requirement either way if we want to progress further down the VNV path. When we now check the Congo's infantry template, it is already improved with another company as expected. We copy the template and apply it to units with otherwise weak or expensive templates. As you can see in the manpower pool, using our subjects' templates reduces our manpower needs. We're going to use the small recruitable population for now to only recruit additional bicycle divisions, which have just a couple of companies in them and require little manpower to deploy, with the intent to switch them to Congolese templates afterwards. Recruiting Congolese divisions directly would mean that we'd have to deploy them in the Congo first and ship them over to Belgium. Now that we got rid of the self-inflicted neutrality modifiers, we begin justifying a war goal right away. Because world tension isn't very high and we aren't at war yet, the time needed to justify it is still 240 days. The focus, Revitalize the Netherlands, once finished, is going to provide us with some nice bonuses, but it's mostly an obstacle that we have to get past to get to the juicy stuff. After we've accumulated another 150 political power, we can switch our conscription laws to limited conscription. Right away our manpower pool starts to increase, and although it doesn't look like much, we're going to field quite the army by the end of this video. Our first war will be fought by the divisions we have right now though, and the war is right around the corner. The current focus will reward us with a war goal on both the Netherlands and Luxembourg, and we're going to use them immediately once they're available. Meanwhile, let me give you my first impressions of the new DLC. As you might know, I don't care too much about late game mechanics, but the special projects are actually quite fun and a surprisingly complex mechanic. Complex, not complicated. What I mean is, if you compare it to, for example, the espionage system, it is much more fleshed out and comes with a lot of new UI elements. The AI is also pleasantly responsive and feels a lot more aggressive in combat, which you're going to realize quickly once you go head-to-head with the reworked Germany or try to invade the UK. The new and expanded German focus tree is straight up crazy though, not just in size but also for replayability, with lots and lots of alt history branches, hidden events, secret paths and leaders. The only thing I'm missing is what paranoia is to Stalin and the balance of power to Mussolini. Not because I particularly enjoy them, but because otherwise, well, it just reflects a bit poorly on Hitler's and Hitler Germany's actual potential and shortcomings, to put it mildly. Overall, it's nevertheless one of the better DLCs that Paradox has released for Hoi4. Anyway, let's move on. With Flanders Ascendant done, we're blocked from progressing any further until we've conquered the Netherlands and Luxembourg. It's not worth starting a different focus though, since the war obviously won't last for long. You can just battle plan your way to victory, but it's worth paying a little attention to terrain, specifically the rivers. We also don't want the war against the Netherlands to end too quickly, otherwise their subject, the Dutch East Indies, won't be called into the war in time. Little trivia on the side, the peace conference for the war with Luxembourg does not trigger immediately, because every war has a minimum duration of 7 days. Once the Dutch East Indies have been called into the war, we want to put an end to the conflict as quickly as possible. This attempt wasn't of the particularly fast variety, admittedly, and can be done much faster. During the peace conference with the Netherlands and their subject nation, we annex all of Swamp Germany and make the Dutch East Indies into a puppet of our own. The main challenge to overcome in this run manifests right here. Once we're relocating our units to the border with France, it's going to get reinforced on the opposite side as well. Just breaking through with brute force is an option, but not a very good one, especially if you don't want to join the Axis. It's nevertheless the fastest option, albeit not by much, so let's see how it plays out. First, let's get a couple more divisions into the field until we've reached a full army of mostly infantry divisions and have some bicycle units at the ready. The next focus, Demand Calais, once completed, can lead to a war goal too, hence why justifying manually is just marginally faster. But, and that's a but not too many people care about, it's going to allow us to cap France in 1937 instead of 1938. It's also a guaranteed method for war, since the event from Demand Calais does not necessarily result in a war goal, but might instead lead to a peaceful transfer of territory. The justification against Yugoslavia finishes late November, and although France is no longer guaranteeing Yugo, the UK does, and France is part of the Allies by now. After declaring war on Yugoslavia, the United Kingdom joins immediately, and so does France. Let's attack straight away and get a glance at our chances. Well, it doesn't look too good, so let's take the invite from Germany and join the Axis. They won't provide much help in the attack, but the new hostile front lines are going to force the AI to redistribute their divisions once we've called them into the war. So how the bloody hell do we win this? At the moment, too many French divisions are stacked at the front line and they are dug in as well. Okay, so first, we need to stop attacking, otherwise the AI cannot pull divisions away. The German divisions are going to meanwhile move up to support our lines, but they won't start attacking right away to build up organization. What we need to do now is watch out for weak spots in the front line. Oh, and don't worry by the way if you think this is too random to achieve. I have a foolproof method coming right after, but first let's see how this scenario plays out. After the French divisions have shuffled around, we go on the offense again. We need to force an opening, and this tile here looks like it's about to break. It's a slim chance, but it's all we have. Our one advantage right now is speed and a very dispersed enemy army. If we make it through the first line of defense, we should be able to make something work here. Once we have created an opening, we need to secure it by putting pressure on both sides and bringing our bicycle divisions into the breach. Forcing France to surrender is still a good chunk of luck away. Our bicycle divisions aren't exactly strong, and any divisions they encounter will be nearly impossible to get past without infantry support. We fully rely on the AI not being able to handle a quickly expanding front line, leaving us enough room to avoid direct combat and maneuver around their divisions instead. What I'm trying to do here is split the 10 bicycle divisions into smaller groups whenever we enter a new tile to spread out quickly. It should be pretty apparent that this method heavily relies on the AI making mistakes and us being lucky, which is different in the method that I'm showing you next. We actually do make it deep into France before encountering enemy units on the move, but it doesn't look too promising and I'm constantly thinking about resetting at this point. I was pretty convinced that we'll need to get to at least some of the coastal cities too, for France to throw the towel, but apparently capturing Tours and Dunkirk pushed them over the limit. Now onto the much more entertaining variation of the strategy. It is pretty much identical to the previous run up to the point where we declare war against Luxembourg and the Netherlands, with the main difference being that we didn't start a manual justification. Instead of bashing our heads against French defenses, we're going to deploy a secret weapon so devastating the French will just run away in sheer terror. And we'll do it solo, meaning without joining a faction, although we could become a member right away. If we do not justify a war goal at this point, Germany is going to extend an invitation while we are in our first war instead of later when fighting France, but will decline. Just as before, we defeat and annex both Luxembourg and the Netherlands and make the Dutch East Indies into a puppet. Since we're going at it alone this time, we'll have to get more divisions into the field to keep our shores protected from invasions. The main deviation starts once we finish the Dietschland focus. Instead of taking Demand Calais right after, we're going to prepare for a bit longer. In the meantime, we'll do a couple of focuses. They don't matter for what we're planning, so let's just skip through them quickly. Don't get hung up on which I picked, you can just as well boost your eco or start the progress on any of the other non-political branches. On the 1st of July, we come back to the VNV path and start the Demand Calais focus. Unfortunately, it involves a bit of RNG. Once the focus is completed, we are presented with 3 choices on how to deal with our supposed claim on Calais. 2 of the 3 options have a high chance of triggering a war right away, but France may also decide to just give up the territory peacefully. But first, let's finally unveil our secret wonder weapon. And no, it's not a massive tank, a flying fortress or a nuclear bomb. Our secret weapon is particularly Belgian. You see our bicycle divisions here? Let's move them up to the front line. Now watch and listen. And don't blink or you'll miss it. Yeah, that's right. The French know what's coming and made the wise choice to just leave. And it so happens to be that our focus lines up perfectly with France abandoning the front line. What a coincidence. Now all we need is France choosing violence over ceding territory to us when we threaten war if they don't. It takes a couple of days until the response arrives and again allows us to either back down or to escalate. Given the circumstances, we of course want to escalate and begin sketching out our bicycle parade through France. The one city we absolutely need to capture is Paris. If we manage to take just a few more victory points on top of that, France is expected to give up right away. By fanning out over most of northeastern France, we increase our odds of achieving that goal within a very short time, as becomes evident once we unpause. I'm very sorry, by the way, that you haven't heard from me in a while. Work and family kept me busy and honestly I was a bit burnt out from Hoi4 and needed a break. I won't make any promises towards release schedules this time, but I do have a couple of strategies ready that I really would like to showcase, and this Belgium run seemed like a fun snack-sized video to get back into making videos. Once unleashed, our bicycle divisions make a mad dash through France and encounter basically no hostile units at all. Within just 4 days, France capitulates. From here you just need to protect your coastline and ports and repel naval invasions until you can and want to take on the United Kingdom and or the Axis. With all of mainland France under our belt, we can take the remaining focuses down to Belgica and transform quite a lot of French territories into Belgian core states by doing so. I hope you enjoyed today's speedrun commentary. Thank you very much for watching, stay safe and see you next time.